Warrior has gotten a buff, but they haven't announced all the buffs that they did. One of them that they did announce is that Devastate no longer has this tooltip. Instead, it now has this tooltip. So it hits about 50% harder before you factor in the Sunder stacks. But the secret buff, which I think has a chance of being much more significant, is that Deep Wounds can now activate on Devastate crits. Yes, that's right. In the first phase, this actually wasn't the case. So it's got to have you wondering, how much damage is this going to offer me? I know that people quite often have about a fifth of their DPS coming from Deep Wounds, and it's extra significant now that you can see that there's this bleed damage reduction we have to worry about. So let's get this set up so we can test all the specs and see what's the best. The only thing that we got to change right now is making sure that we're not depending on being an orc. Let's swap this to dwarf, resim over here, and know that the baseline is now 322 DPS. Let's see how much we can do if we build this for an optimal one button rotation. Let's agree on the runes real quick. I don't think there's going to be any argument here. We're going to definitely take Flagellation. This one's a no-brainer. I mean, look, 25% extra damage. We need to have Devastate. We're going to do a one-button prop build, of course. Now, you might be wondering on Waste, should we take Focused Rage? No, because it's going to actually interfere with having good uptime on CBR. Same issue with Blood Surge. Blood Surge requires us to use too much rage. Focus Rage will actually lower our uptime by making us use not enough rage. And also, precise timing lets us rely on exactly when slam will happen, which is the kind of stuff I need to make a one-button rotation. And as far as the legs go, would you really want to have Furious Thunder? No, of course not. So we're definitely going to be using Consume by Rage. Now let's dig into the talents, and we'll be able to see what is the best way and how much damage exactly can you do. Let's check out the arms tree first. Let's actually explore how much damage you're going to gain from using Deep Wounds. So we'll put 10 points into basically whatever so we can unlock this really quick. Then let's go over here and see how much DPS do we gain? We were at 322, now we're at 368, so that's a 45 DPS increase, and 45 over 330 is about 15%, which makes sense because we are claiming that Deep Wounds is offering us about 20% of our total DPS. Let's put some points into Tack Mastery and Impale so we can get further down in this tree. We need to spend a few more points so we can see, are we better off using Mortal Strike in a build? But we also have to make sure that we enable it in the sim. So go all the way up here and then enable it. And then we can resim and see how much damage the last few points in the arms tree gave us. It only gave us 30 DPS, so Deep Wounds did more than all the other talents put together, which has me wondering, what does the uptime on Consumed by Rage look like? So let's click the stats panel. That way we can now check out what the uptime is. And we see it's at 50%, which is really low and has got me wondering, is the problem Mortal Strike? Because Devastate's really cheap to use. So let's see what would happen if we just didn't use Mortal Strike in our rotation at all, and we kept all the talents the same. Would that increase our DPS? That would be kind of weird, and of course we have goofy shit happening, so why is this goofy shit happening? Let's check that out. We'll go to stats again, zoom out, let's see the CPR uptime, and what do you know? So we lose 30% Consumed by Rage uptime by using Mortal Strike in our rotation, so of course we shouldn't do that then, but that's got to have you wondering, well, what should we do instead? And that's obvious too. Let's take the points out of here in arms and put 5 into cruelty and see what does this offer to us DPS wise. So swap back on over here, resim it, and what do we got? 430. Okay, so that number's larger. I wonder how much of it's because of the stats panel changing. So zoom out, zoom on in. Okay, so gaining 5% crit, of course, gave us more damage, but it also gave us 3% more uptime on Consumed by Rage. Let's start digging into some other specs, and then we'll be able to see, is this the best we can do? Because I don't think it is. We haven't even talked about the one-button rotation yet. I'd really like to have some moves with the same CDs, and we can get that because Slam has a 6-second CD with this, and Bloodthirst has a 6-second CD. So if we can make Fury good, then that means we have a very obvious OP rotation. It'd just simply be Sunder Sunder, Bloodthirst Slam, or Sunder Sunder Slam Bloodthirst. So let's check that out. What happens when we go deep into the Fury tree really quickly? Christmas tree, this stuff, grab all the talents. We're not really worrying about any of them except Death Wish, Flurry, and Bloodthirst. Sadly, the enrage talent right here, which might sound awesome. It doesn't stack with CBR, so it's really not all that hot. But I mean, what are you going to do? You need it so that way you can get points into Flurry, and that way we can now get Bloodthirst. Got to come all the way back up here. Make sure that you enable Death Wish. We're going to use it on pull because, I mean, why not? We're going to be tanking and you're not going to be using Execute since you're in D stance. So let's come over here, resim it, and see how much damage did we gain. We didn't appear to gain any damage, but that's because we didn't turn on Bloodthirst also. So make sure you do that. And also, let's throw in Slam here. Now check this out. 472 DPS. So this is the clear winner so far. And now we can make this rotation, which will be very fun. And you can just hit this button over and over and over again and do about that much damage. But we still haven't answered potentially all the questions you could have. How could you even more DPS? We don't have all of the effects even turned on. How much would turning this grilled squid on give us? Like 5 DPS. And you know, a lot of these other things, if you put on, they're going to give you about 1% more DPS too. So you can get this all the way up to like 500, even if you're playing a race that doesn't have anything that benefits you damage-wise. If you're mostly concerned about how to have a one-button rotation and how to hold threat, and you don't care too much about doing a little more damage, you could run with a spec like this. It's going to do about 15% less DPS on the fights that have low armor, but on the high armor fights, it's going to do better. And another thing to consider is if you wanted to maybe go the arms build with Mortal Strike because you like PvPing, you don't want to have to respec, it's not going to absolutely kill you because if you're tanking, you're going to get hit by the boss. And so you're going to have more rage and you'll have better CBR uptime than what I'm actually showing in the sim. Another thing to consider is that you're going to have parries and stuff because you're in front of the boss, and that will actually make you spend less rage per second. So CBR uptimes will be a little higher in reality, most likely, than what I found in this sim. TLDR, if you PvP, go arms, go deep arms. The deep wounds buff is going to benefit you, all right? If you only care about blasting, probably go deep fury. If you're an off tank especially, because it's going to do more DPS when you're tanking, and then when you're off tanking or you don't have to tank at all, you can do more DPS. And if you're looking for any of this ridiculous crap out in the wild, it's a little hard to find it in Warcraft logs, but I can show you really quick. You see, if you go into here and you actually filter by prot warriors, this isn't prot warriors, it's tanks. And so you need to actually check all these guys and see, are they using a shield, which is a huge hassle. I wrote a little script so that way I was able to find somebody before recording this. And we're going to see that the number 138 guy, Balinor, he's using a shield, and he was number 80 yesterday before I started making this video. I think he just hasn't gotten in again since this 29th is when his last log is. So I suggest going and checking out this guy's logs if you want to have a little bit of inspiration. I'll make sure to put a link to that stuff in the description along with all the macros, and then somewhere on your screen right now is a video that YouTube's suggesting you about warriors, so click that if you want to see more crap about warriors, because I'm never going to stop making it. I like playing this class and I like numbers. It is quite fun. Check the description. Check the description. There's stuff in there. Go look at it. Or else.